So, what on earth is going on with this Hantavirus and the mysterious, unexplained ticks getting dropped off on people's doorsteps? Okay. I mean, I woke up with a tick in my son's head, my wife screaming, and me thinking that something even worse had happened with the kind of way that she was screaming. Okay. So, I was pretty disturbed to see this massive tick in my son's head, right? So, we'd never had this, right? So he's 5 years old, my youngest, and so people are observing this, and then Bill Gates is being implicated. And what do we know in terms of what's actually going on here, and how we can protect ourselves from this and other threats? And then at the same time, in this parallel universe, we've got the hantavirus issue happening somewhat simultaneously. And again, we've got the Simpsons forewarning, right? The Simpsons predicts it. Simpsons predicts hantavirus. Okay, that's a big cover story. Okay, so let's what does that look like? So you see the images of Homer Simpson and the hantavirus. So let's have a look at that, right? So I'm going to show you what happens when we look at that. Okay, so I'll show you this. Let's have a look. So hantavirus, The Simpsons, right? So just be aware of all this, you know, stuff that could get created, fake stuff, right? That's not real. And then let's have a look at, okay, well, this hasn't been predicted. So let's look at the cover story against it. They claim the internet post suggests that it went viral, suggesting the 2012 episode eerily mirrored the reality of the Honduras hantavirus crisis, MV, where passengers were quarantined or forced to remain at sea. The truth, the pandemic was an entirely fake movie clip staged by Bart to extend his vacation, meaning there was no actual disease on the ship. Okay, so that's pretty bad to say that. Okay, that because Bart faked it, therefore it's not what's happening. So therefore it's different. Fact check: reliable journalistic investigations have completely debunked the idea that the Simpsons writers foresaw or prophesied the hantavirus cruise situation. Okay, so it's the purple tongue, for example. They both stick out their purple tongues, and so let's have a look at it. It's a pretty poor defense, right? So you see here that on The Simpsons, you've got here that the Simpsons predicted in 2012. Okay, let's have a look. The hantavirus causing the staining of the color purple in the body. That's the kind of the color of the virus, allegedly, right? Which we don't even know what's true at all. And most things you're kind of suspecting. This is just fabrication. And so you'll see this purple tongue. Okay, and for some reason they're not going to give me the shots on this. Oh, yuck. Okay, that was cancer there. Okay. Yeah, this guy's going to cover that pretty well, but I don't want to get a strike on that. So many of you guys would have seen the clip by now, right? And so what do we know about this? And then come over to the other cover story that's happening at the same time, which is in this case the case of Bill Gates being accused of driving this issue with the ticks that are showing up in boxes on farms, and people are going wild about this. Okay. And so again, this is false, right? So fact check, this is false. Okay, so debunked by health experts and fact checkers. And it's these tick-related illnesses are driven by real environmental factors. And so we're supposed to ignore that RFK was in some ways to me forced to withdraw and recant from his position that the Lyme disease and Plum Island and the biological warfare that happened was intentional and it was created versus it just being naturally occurring. And so then these are the cases that are getting back into the fore because there's this issue. And so just going to, I mean, whenever we would check for COVID cases, you could put in any number. Like I'll put in like 654 COVID, and we would find that, or if I put in like new cases COVID, and we'd find that Google was kind of, look at that, 654 new cases, 654 new cases of COVID. Like just call out a number, 523. Okay, and now let's see. And you could just keep doing this, and you realize that this was designed to. It's like algorithmically there, so you're in this feedback loop that is causing you to feel like, oh, look at how many outbreaks are there. Not that people would necessarily put in all these numbers and like do what I'm doing. What I'm doing is showing that the whole thing was a cover up, but then this was cycling. So then like you just keep going, and obviously we'd put in the good old 666, and that's going to show up too, I'm sure. There we go. Like it's never not worked for me, which is so bizarre, right? That they're so clumsy with this, and in some ways they're like testing people, right? So just because this source or that source doesn't feel like you've got a great case on something, you have to look at what are all the people saying about this, of what's happening, and with the ticks and the issues that's causing. So ticks with recent outbreaks, diseases caused. Okay, so Lyme, this Possawan virus, and alpha-gal syndrome. And this alpha-gal, like, is some weird name like alpha girl, alpha gal? We say that in Australia, gal, guys and gals. I think Americans say that, right? So Lyme, 500,000 cases diagnosed annually, which is a lot. And then this alpha gal syndrome causing sudden severe allergy to red meat and dairy. Which is strange considering that there's this big campaign that RFK Jr. and Tony Robbins, they just went kind of live on this, and it's about meat and dairy. And I'm not even taking a case for or against, but it's just a strange kind of collision of narratives. The range of these ticks and the result of meat allergy cases has seen an explosive increase, even appearing in Western states like Washington. Okay, so and these are spreading. And here's a tick, which is actually, strangely enough, part of the spider family. You see the 8 legs. Gross. Evil. I hate them. Because I hate seeing them in animals and seeing animals infested with them and seeing how cruel that is, that these animals are overtaken. And really, I mean, it's obviously a parasite, right? Even though it's not how we'd normally define a parasite. And if you look at all the chronic conditions that have been driven by parasites, and then like look at autoimmune disease. Let's have a look at this. Is it autoimmune disease and parasite causes? And so there's an example where you'll see that there are parasite proteins resemble human tissues, causing the human immune system to attack the body. Chronic immune activation. It just Pulling this up here. And these are the screens I was sharing before. So you've got here molecular mimicry. Parasites often possess molecules or proteins that closely match human peptides. When your immune system creates antibodies to destroy the parasite, it may mistakenly target your own tissue, such as your thyroid or joint tissue, in a case of mistaken identity. So that's called molecular mimicry. So these are mechanisms that are going on that are, are problematic. And so here's this, this new tick, this alpha gal, right? Tick that causes meat allergy and other rare viruses spreading. And then this whole thing of like eat the bugs, right? With Klaus Schwab trying to get us to eat bugs and to get off meat, which, I mean, I think there's a good case for like longevity with having a lower animal intake diet, but this kind of polarization of you will be forced to do this and you will eat bugs instead or something like that is obviously so eerie and dystopian. So you come over to, so now let's see the CDC data. CDC data show weekly ER visits for tick bites higher than usual, which could be astronomical. And so of course we shouldn't suspect that this is nefarious and that anyone would be, dropping these horrific parasites on us, right? Because that wouldn't be something that would happen, right? That's not normal. But that's exactly what can happen. And so then we come over to working out, well, what do we do? What's the solution to this problem and related problems? And here's some of the images I was sharing before with The Simpsons, and they're strange occurrences where you're looking at why are the Simpsons sharing things that are strikingly similar, and look at the parallels that exist. And this is back in 2012, and then Bart's character says they're buying it, and it's this big joke that he's playing, so hence why when they're fact checking it, saying, well, Simpsons didn't know, and this is just kind of like a coincidence, and by the way, Bart, it wasn't an actual outbreak, so therefore it's not a parallel. But they're assuming that we believe then it's an absolute outbreak and that it's something that we should be afraid of. And most people that I know are not afraid of this, and that I interact with, because they don't typically buy the news narrative. The things that we're not told about are the things that we should be concerned about. The things that we are told about are often the things we shouldn't be concerned about. Not always, but often. And certainly the things that we're told are the solution to those problems are not the solutions, and the things that are not either told to us or even warned against are often the things that we should be taking. So, come over to, like, let's say, for example, if like Hantavirus, or like, let's say, Lyme disease and other co-infections, if we think about the therapies that are proven to work, in this case, let's look at red light therapy for tick-borne illnesses like Lyme disease, right? So have a look at Lyme disease with red light therapy, and you'll see some striking data on sharing how powerful this is. So the conditions or the symptoms that it's helping to relieve here: joint and muscle pain, fatigue, and muscle fatigue, and inflammation without acting as a cure, right? So, which they can never tell you that, right? Even though the collection of different things should solve a problem systemically, but I don't even want to say that one thing would be a cure, because the only thing I want to say is that the body heals itself, and the body has its own self-curing system, and light therapy is something that's going to support the body in that. So I think that, ironically, that in experience, some people would say, yes, this is the thing that did this, and the studies are showing profound results for Lyme disease, and it's supporting symptoms, it's supporting mitochondrial function. And so Lyme disease, if you look at mitochondrial damage, and it's already there, even though I haven't necessarily searched those keywords together, it's causing mitochondrial dysfunction. Then you correct mitochondria, and you interact with that with light, and then all of a sudden you're able to solve that problem. And so it's producing the harmful molecules. So it's interesting that you can have positive reactive oxygen species and negative. And in this case, you've got mitochondria being impaired. They struggle to coordinate appropriate immune responses, causing infection and inflammation to persist. And then you got mitochondrial energy deficits. The prefrontal cortex combined with neurotoxins like quinolinic acid directly contribute to mood disorders, brain fog, and sleep disruptions. And here you've got some more information. And so having a look here at coming over to then, if you can then correct mitochondria, so look at mitochondria dysfunction and red light therapy, because there is no more direct link between mitochondrial dysfunction and red light therapy. So it's stimulating cellular respiration, specifically targeting mitochondrial dysfunction by triggering photons to release nitric oxide, allowing oxygen to bind to enzymes more efficiently, which boosts ATP production and reduces oxidative stress. So here's all this, pretty profound and amazing, the results. And so you then look at why then when you look at other conditions. So like, let's say if hantavirus or hantavirus becomes an issue, then you can count on there being another big scare and another solution. And obviously we're already being encouraged. Get the hantavirus, that thing, right? The thing that you put in your body that you're supposed to do. So let's look at this case. This is a long COVID study, and this is the acute long COVID, which is even the injuries that happen from people getting these interventions. And this is whole organ photobiomodulation. And it is relevant for people suffering from all different conditions. This is full recovery occurred within 4 sessions for all photobiomodulation patients. All but 2 cases resolved within 1 week. And it was, look at the outcomes, right? Photobiomodulation long COVID outcomes include total resolution of shortness of breath, dyspnea, oxygen above 97%, digestive distress resolved, brain fog resolved, memory recall resolved, executive function restored. So it was a slam dunk, right? And then when you understand all the different conditions that this relates to, you start realizing that this is truly a holy grail of healing. And so red light therapy is proven to be a profound tool. And so when we see these emerging issues, whether it's like the hantavirus, and you see this slew of toxins, and then you start saying, okay, it's time to get the answers, time to get the solutions. And this to me is the slam dunk that is like a catch-all. And then you start getting into other categories like parasites, and you start going through all the rabbit holes, and then now the results start making sense as to why that is so powerful, and why the results with cancer are so strong. And you take the results that have been found on photodynamic therapy, which is then an anti-parasitic, which is called antimicrobial photodynamic therapy, which is helping to kill parasites. And as a result of doing that, I'll show you these studies here, then it's putting the cancer in remission. Okay, so in this case, this is PubMed. You see the resources here. This is through Grok. It's giving you the direct PubMed cancer studies on various forms of cancer, from breast cancer to malignant melanoma to colorectal tumor. Look at this, 100%. That's gone. 99%. That's 1% off being gone. And then the growth in the control that didn't do the methylene blue red light combo, 3,000%, 1,100%, 900% growth. For colorectal tumors, this is in animals, and then you'll see the human studies are showing very interesting similar results. 5 out of 6 tumor sites done, like completely gone after 5 sessions in humans, right? So this is profound, and it's getting to the bottom of these systemic infections. This is actually getting towards the parasite issue. You saw an issue with other toxins caused by this bacteria that's coming from Lyme, whatever COVID was, and I could show different data as to what that was. This is a little clue on that. And let's see, toxin-like peptides here. This article here gives a really good clue on what is driving that issue. And this was in COVID, and this is what was covered in the blood, urine, and feces of COVID patients. Okay, so this will give you a big clue as to what's really driving this huge issue here. And therefore, and then you start looking at the studies like both. Let's look at the Bothrops asper snake venom with red light therapy. Just pulling up this research here. This was LED light emitting diode showing that it was effective against the Bothrops asper snake venom with a treat injected mice, and it was effective in helping remediate this issue. So it starts making sense if we're coming against all these toxic burdens that are systemically facing people, we can get to what is actually driving these issues and causing the malaise in the first place. So I hope this has been really informational, whether it's Hantavirus, ticks, and the alpha-gal, Lyme disease. We've got issues that the body needs optimal voltage to overcome issues in the body. So we need to be getting tools that will up-regulate that voltage through mitochondrial function, producing enough cellular energy, ATP. That is why red light therapy is really the leading treatment for so many different conditions, and it's ticking all these different boxes, and it's also being a protective shield for you. So I just want people to be aware of that, to take take advantage of these profound tools, and to be able to take action and move forward with these profound healing modalities.